Welcome to this budget training presentation. It is based on the LOC Public Budgeting 101 video that was previously sent out to the Budget Committee. And this is Melanie Wagner with the City of Estacada. And I'm just going to provide a summary of that budget training. The video is about 2.5 hours long, and it's got some great information in it, but in case that's too long of a presentation for you to view, I just wanted to provide a quick high-level summary of some of the main points in that presentation. The goals of this summary are to help you be able to participate as a budget committee member, to be able to anticipate and follow the budget process and feel like you're tracking along with us. And then number 3, to know where to get your questions answered if you have more questions. A few of the main topics I'm going to go through on this summary are the what, who, why, and when of budgeting. First of all, what is a budget, especially a municipal budget? And it is an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time, which is pretty common knowledge. For Estacada, that set period of time is 1 year. Some other cities do a 2-year budget. However, we're still on the cycle for a 1-year budget. So every year we redo the budget, and it runs from July 1 through June 30th, and then our next budget year starts. A budget is based on reasonable and expected estimates to best serve the community. So we don't have a crystal ball. Sometimes we don't see things that are coming up and they might not be included in the budget, and there's a process to manage that if that's the case. And sometimes we do supplemental budgets later in the year or close to the end of the year. Like for instance, this year we received a grant that we did not know we were going to be receiving. So we did a supplemental budget for a few things, but also specifically for that grant, so it could be received into our budget and then expended. So because it is just an estimate, a budget is really perfect for 1 day out of the year, and that's the day that it is it's adopted. And then for more information on this topic, go to 11 minutes on the LOC training video, and they'll go into a little more detail, or quite a bit more detail on this. And on the rest of the slides, I will have at certain points a reference to how many minutes into the video this information is coming from, so that if you want to go back and get more information or dive a little deeper, you can do that and be able to find it on the video. Next, we want to talk about who is involved in the budget process. First of all, there's the budget officer in Estacada, that's the city manager. And the budget officer is the responsible party for the municipality to make sure that the budget is adopted on time and all of the rules are followed. I will say that in Estacada we have a finance director, and she does the bulk of the heavy lifting on developing the budget and putting that document together. We've all been meeting, the department heads and our finance director have been meeting since, I believe, February. We meet once a week just to touch base, find out what's the next set of information that she needs for the budget, and then bring that back the following week or throughout the week. For instance, if we need to get estimates for projects or things like that, we're just working on each department budget since February. Then the budget committee, and the budget committee consists of an equal number of elected officials and citizen members. So we have 14 members in Estacada. It's the 7 members of the city council who are elected, and then 7 additional members who are appointed to the budget committee. And then lastly, but not least, we have the city council. They're the governing body who eventually adopts the budget. All right, the next question is why? And the reason that we do an annual budget and go through the full budget process is that it's the law in Oregon to adopt a balanced budget by June 30th in order to spend money or incur obligations. And you can go to 15 minutes in the training video, and they'll talk a little bit more details about that. But basically, it's required to set appropriations, or those are the spending limits for the city, and so that is why we do a budget. So when do we do this budget process? Well, first of all, the budget must be adopted by June 30th legally. And then there's deadlines for each of the steps in the process for publishing the notices. For instance, you have to publish them not more than 30 days before the budget committee meeting and not less than 5, so that it gives the community a good chance to know about that and be involved. Then when we provide a copy of the proposed budget to the budget committee, it also is required to be made available at that same time to the community. And so advertising for the budget committee meeting and the council's budget hearing, there's deadlines for those. And then there's also deadlines for providing the correct documents to the county. Most of those are due by July 15th. And so those are some of the timelines that we work under. All right, the next topic is regarding the budget process and what does that process look like? And even though we are specifically working on the budget between about February through April, beginning of May, then we hold our meetings and it gets adopted. It actually is a year-long, year-round process. Starting, if you have a starting point, it would be in January when the council does their goal setting. Sets the vision, priorities, and policies for the city for the next year to 2 years is what we're usually looking out, and then with also a vision to the farther away future, but how we pull that into what do we have to get done this year in order to accomplish their goals. And then between then and April, the budgeting at the staff level is taking place. Staff works from February through April to prepare a proposed budget, and that's when the finance director is especially working with all the department heads, figuring out exactly what's going to need to take place in this budget year and approximately how much that will cost and how much revenue we anticipate receiving, things like that. And then by July 1st is the new fiscal year. So by then, the formal budget process has been completed and a budget has been approved and adopted. And then, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes a supplemental budget has been approved and are prepared and approved if needed. And that's all done by the 1st of July because June 30th is the deadline. July 1st starts us into the new year. And then by the time we get to October, that's after the first quarter would be July, August, September. So I'm able to provide quarterly financial reports to the council. And that is what's going on throughout the rest of the year. October will be the first month of that first quarter report. And then also the audit is being completed at that time. So we do an audit every year and have had most of our years are no findings. And if we do ever get a finding, which happens occasionally, we work very hard to quickly clear that up and make sure that we do have appropriate processes in place so that we won't be having findings after that. And then as we circle back around, we have January back to goal setting and kind of rounding out that process and starting over. So let's take a look at the budget committee's responsibility. And the budget committee's work provides transparency to the budget process, and they do some specific things. They first of all publicly review the proposed budget document at their budget committee meeting. Also during that meeting, they allow the public to ask questions and comment on the budget. And they approve the budget with all the funds in balance. It can be approved as presented, or it can be revised based on the majority approval of the budget committee. And they also approve the maximum amount of property tax. That leads us to what is outside the budget committee's role. And some of those things are setting staffing levels, salaries, benefits, or contract terms. The budget committee does not get into those details. Deciding whether or not a service or program should be provided is not a role of the budget committee. Those are set according to the city council's goals and how staff is determining best to carry out the work to accomplish those goals. And then making policies outside the budget committee's role. That's also the responsibility of the city council. The budget officer's responsibility is to present a balanced budget and to prepare and present a budget message that helps to explain the priorities and the details of the budget, and then also to ensure that the budget calendar is created and followed each year. The city council's responsibility includes a few different things. Typically at the budget committee meeting, the council lets citizen members of the budget committee lead the meeting by nominating one of them to be the chair each year. That is not required, it's just kind of traditional. However, any member of the budget committee could be the chair. So they typically, during the budget committee process, they really try to make sure that the citizen members are feeling included and able to participate fully. Ideally, the council knows what to expect from the budget and there's no surprises because they are the ones that set the goals and the policies that they want staff to carry out. And so the programs and the staffing and the projects that are included in the budget should not necessarily be fully known. I mean, there might be something in there that the council wasn't aware of, or certain members of the council might not have been realizing that those were going to take place this year. But for the most part, there's really should be no surprises, and the budget should confirm the priorities of the council. And then the council holds the budget hearing for the approved budget document. So once the budget committee meets and approves a balanced budget, then in June, the council will hold at one of their regular meetings, they'll hold a budget hearing, which allows for more public comment, and then they adopt the budget, make appropriations, impose taxes, and categorize taxes. And for more information on that, you can go to 60 Minutes in the training video. So what about urban renewal? Well, everything you do for the municipality is also done for urban renewal. It's just kind of a smaller scale because there's only 2 funds for urban renewal, so it seems like a smaller process, but all of the same requirements are followed, the timeline and everything. The Urban Renewal Board has the same officers as the city, and that's the city council, and they include the same budget committee for the urban renewal agency as well as for the city. So it's just very similar, just a different agency will have 2 separate meetings, one for urban renewal and one for the city. All right, what does the budget document look like? Well, first of all, we have title pages with members of the budget committee and dates for the budget process. And I have a little image here of what you will see on that title page as far as the budget committee members. Then you have the budget message and local budget forms and public notices typically included, and then the revenues and expenditures by fund. Let's talk about the types of funds that are in the city budget. Funds are required by state and federal laws. The city can create needed funds, but it's best practice to stick to the required ones just for simplicity. Sometimes we do add a fund for a large project such as Wade Creek Park, the expansion project, and the Main Street Improvement Project. Those are temporary funds that we will track revenue and expenditure just to make things clear for that project. So there's a whole bunch of information that you can learn about the funds, and that is at 1 hour and 35 minutes into the budget presentation video if you want to listen in on that. But that's about all. I'm going to just give a quick overview for funds. All right, let's talk about presenting a balanced budget. A balanced budget means that resources must equal requirements, or revenue must equal expenditures, however that gets phrased sometimes. All of the numbers are estimates based on reasonable and expected amounts. So it's, again, nothing is, we don't have any crystal ball to see exactly how this should come out, but because of history and getting, being as thorough as we can with getting estimates and knowing how costs usually run, we're able to use reasonable expected amounts. The budget detail includes, as you can see here on this slide, the actual number for 2 years. So we have actual for 2021 and actual numbers for 2022. This is revenue in the general fund, is this particular fund right here. Then we'll show what's the adopted budget for the year we're currently in. So right now we are working out of the budget for 2023, and those are the adopted budget numbers. And then on the far right, we have the proposed budget for 2024, which begins on July 1st. So with 2 years of actual and the adopted budget, and that kind of helps you track with a pattern to understand the proposed budget for the coming year. And all funds individually must be balanced, and then the overall budget must also balance. All right, what are appropriations? And appropriations establish the legal spending authority for the city. They are set by a resolution that will be adopted by the city council after their budget hearing. And I have an example here from last year's resolution. This is for general fund, library reserve. It's fairly lengthy, so I just picked a few here to snip out of that. And they're for expenditures only. They do not apply to revenue. So when we set appropriations, we're setting the spending limit in those funds for the city, and it's just the expenditures. All right, let's do a quick budget process recap. First of all, we have staff preparing and presenting a balanced budget based on requirements that we have and on the city council priorities. Then the budget committee meets to approve the proposed budget and tax levy. And again, you can approve it as presented or with changes that are agreed upon by a majority of the committee. The staff then publishes a hearing notice and summary of the budget, and the council will hold a budget hearing at one of their regular council meetings in June. And then the council adopts a budget and makes appropriations, and that has to be completed by June 30th. And then staff will submit the resolution, the budget, and required forms to the county by July 15th. So I just want to wrap up with one last resource here. This is another PowerPoint presentation from Oregon.gov that provides information about approving and adopting the budget. And I don't believe it has any recording that goes with it, but you can go through the slides, and I thought it was very informational and helpful. So some of you may be very familiar with the budget process, and others this might be brand new to you. So I just wanted to provide this quick overview in case it is helpful. But if you have any questions, please let us know. And we're looking forward to seeing you at the budget meeting this coming week.